And out front now, Chuck Jones. He is the president of the United Steelworkers Local 1999. And Chuck, I really appreciate your time tonight. You know, Donald Trump has proudly, repeatedly talked about saving 1,100 jobs in Indianapolis. Here he is.
I will tell you that United Technologies and Carrier stepped it up. And now they're keeping, actually, the number is over 1,100 people, which is so great,
We're saving the jobs at the Carrier plant from going to Mexico, 1,100 jobs.
Chuck, is this true?
No, ma'am. When Carrier announced he closed down the whole facility in February, they announced at that point in time their research and development jobs, about 350 of them were going to remain here in Indianapolis. Then when Mr. Trump got involved, what the actual number of jobs saved is 730 bargaining unit jobs, the workers of the union members, and another 70 office supervisory clerical workers from management. And what they're doing, they're counting in 350 some odd more than were never leaving this country at all. I think he's did a lot of negotiations, and I have likewise. And if you're dealing with people's livelihoods, you sure as the world ought to know what the numbers are.
You know, Carrier, obviously, as you know, had come out, right? They had their own statement, and they said they were retaining, just quoting there now, Chuck, retaining engineering and headquarters staff, preserving more than 1,000 jobs. The chairman of United Technologies, which of course owns Carrier, Gregory Hayes, also mentioned 1,100 jobs at that event with Trump. I mean, do you think the problem is actually with Carrier? They were giving him wrong numbers.
Well, you know, if you want to add up the research and development jobs, it is 1,100. But like I said earlier, those jobs never were leaving this country anyway. So they're going to have 1,100 jobs here in the city. But what nobody is mentioning is 550 people, excuse me, are losing their jobs.
So I want to ask you about that, because there's the issue here of how many jobs were saved, and you're pointing out a discrepancy there. But the whole point of what Donald Trump is trying to do, as you know, Chuck, right, is to say these jobs are not going to go to Mexico. He's going to stop that. He's using Carrier as, you know, he's planting his flag. But you're now saying it's, what, 550 jobs that are still going to Mexico even after Donald Trump's deal?
That's correct. 550 jobs in the Indianapolis facility, and then there's a Huntington facility, and 700 jobs are also going to Mexico from there.
Do you want Donald Trump to do something about it? I mean, when he hears this, maybe he doesn't know this. You know, he was really proud to stop these jobs going.
Do you think he by now? Well, I want to say this, first of all. I appreciate Mr. Trump getting involved and saving as many people's livelihoods as he did. So I don't think that can go without being said. I just wish that he'd have had the numbers down and he'd have been up front with 800 people's jobs staying here in Indianapolis, because we had a lot of our members, when the word was coming out of 1,100, they thought that they would have a job. And then they find out the next day after, next Friday, that most likely they weren't. 550 were still going to lose their jobs.
So you're saying some of those 550 people, they really thought that number, that misspeak that to some people doesn't seem like much, to them it was, they thought they had a job. For a few days, they truly thought they had a job.
Yeah, and you know, they went through a letdown period when the company announced closed down. And then so they probably accepted the fact at some point in time they were going to lose their livelihood. And then all of a sudden it enters in, and you hear better than 1,100 jobs retained in Indianapolis. So those folks probably had to think, okay, I'm keeping my job. Only to find out last Friday, well, no, there's 550 being laid off. Now, that never was mentioned by anybody. Trump, Pence, or any of them never mentioned about 550 moving to Monterrey, Mexico.
All right. Well, Chuck Jones, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us and for laying this out to people. I don't think a lot of people knew that there's still 550 jobs from that plant going to Mexico.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate letting us tell our side of the story.